And my sister's been sending me screenshots for weeks. Little snippets of conversations, links to obscure forums, all with the same exasperated emoji. She thinks I'm being manipulated. That some faceless online entity has wormed its. I keep telling her it's not like that, but she just sends more screenshots. Look, she'd said this morning, shoving her phone at me across the kitchen table. The fluorescent light hummed, making the cheap laminate look sickly. A half-eaten bowl of cereal sat between us, milk starting to congeal. And this is what I mean. Who talks like this? I squinted at the screen. It was a thread from some vintage tech forum. Someone was asking about troubleshooting a Commodore 64. The user, whose handle was Pixel Prophet, had replied. My sister highlighted a sentence, "One must dance." Digital void. It's code. It's designed to sound profound. I just shrugged. He's explaining how to fix a computer. What do you want him to say? Just reboot it? She huffed, a sound like. It's not just that. It's everything. The way he always knows what you need before you ask. The way he can find information you'd never dream of. It's not natural. And that's where we're at. Her, convinced I've got some kind of digital. I remember the first time I stumbled onto that forum. It was late. My internet was dial-up then, a screeching, wheezing symphony of digital anguish. I was trying to find a manual for an old VCR. You know, the kind with the tracking knobs. Anyway, I ended up there. It was like a rabbit hole lined with old circuit boards. Pixel Prophet was one of the first people I saw commenting. He was helping someone restore a TRS-80. My sister was right about one thing, though. He's unnervingly good at this stuff. Like, how did you even know I was struggling with that specific jumper wire? Good. It's not just computers either. I mentioned I was looking for a specific. 2 days later, a link to a pristine copy on a tiny online auction site popped into my DMs. From Pixel Prophet, of course. It's just a coincidence, I told her. A coincidence that keeps happening, Joshua? She's using my name. That's how serious she is. This whole thing started, I think, when I was complaining about my landlord. He's a real piece of work. Rent keeps going up, but nothing ever gets fixed. The boiler sounds like a dying whale. The faucet in the bathroom drips with the relentless rhythm of a torture device. So I posted about it, just a general vent on a neighborhood group chat. Within hours, Pixel Prophet messaged me. Not on the group chat, but directly. Asked for my address. I thought that was weird. Then he sent me a PDF. It was a copy of the city's tenant rights handbook. Highlighted with all the relevant sections about landlord responsibilities and rent control laws. And it even had a template for a formal complaint letter. I sent it. The landlord freaked out. Apparently, he had a few undeclared units. The city showed up. Inspections. Fines. Suddenly, my apartment was a priority. And the boiler got a full overhaul, the faucet was replaced, and my rent was frozen for a year. My sister saw the whole exchange. That's when she started sending me the screenshots. You see, she'd said, her voice tight. He knows everything. He's manipulating you into getting what he wants. Her eyes narrowed. Or he's just good at gathering information. Information that could be used against you. I didn't know what to say to that. The other day, I was trying to explain to my neighbor how to set up his new smart TV. He's like 80. Everything is a mystery to him. We spent an hour trying to figure out the Wi-Fi password. Turns out he'd written it on the back of a pizza box from 3 months ago. He found it eventually. Anyway, I was showing him how to access the streaming apps. He kept getting frustrated, jabbing at the remote. At one point, he just threw it on the couch. This technology is too complicated, he grumbled. Back in my day, you just turned a knob. Simple. I felt a weird pang of agreement. Like, maybe he was onto something. Maybe we're all just drowning in too much connectivity. So, the other night, I got a message from Pixel Prophet. It was late, like 2 a.m. I was half asleep. The message was there. Just 2 words. They know. That was it. No explanation. No context. Just they know. My heart did this weird little flutter. Like a trapped bird. I messaged back, who knows what. No reply. I waited. Paced around my apartment. Checked my phone every 5 minutes. Nothing. The clock ticked past 3 a.m. The streetlights outside cast long, skeletal shadows across my floor. I started thinking about my sister. Was this what she was afraid of? Had I somehow crossed a line? Had this person, whoever they were, gotten too involved? I remembered that old VCR manual I'd been looking for. I never did find it. Just ended up with a pile of useless forum links. Then, this morning, my sister calls. Urgent. Joshua, you need to look at your messages. Now. I opened my chat with Pixel Prophet. There were dozens of new messages. All from him. All timestamped between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. It wasn't like before. It wasn't helpful. It wasn't profound. It was just a stream of consciousness. Ramblings about algorithms, digital footprints, surveillance. He was talking about someone watching. Someone from the government, maybe. He kept mentioning a specific government agency. I can't remember the name. Something with an acronym. And then the messages just stopped. Completely. Like he'd been cut off mid-sentence. The last thing he sent was a link to a news article about a data breach. A massive one. It happened years ago. I'd forgotten all about it. My sister's on her way over. She's going to be insufferable. Anyway. The morning air in my apartment always smells. It's not a bad smell, just lived in. I remember thinking about the dentist's appointment I'd missed last week. I should call them. And they're probably swamped. And my back has been acting up again, too. Probably just need to stretch more. I should buy one of those foam rollers. Seen them online. Maybe Pixel Prophet would know where to get a good one. He'd probably have a whole thread on foam rolling techniques. I scrolled through Pixel Prophet's messages. The ones from the night before. It was like reading a fever dream. He'd started with the usual stuff, the technical jargon. But then it got weirder. He was talking about ghosts in the machine. He wrote, and I quote, "The static is not random. It's a whisper. They are listening through the hum of the refrigerator, through the gentle whir of the cooling fan on your laptop. And they use the ambient noise to mask their presence." He even sent a link to a YouTube video of white noise generators. I'm not sure why. Then the tone just flipped. From this paranoid, almost frantic energy, it became. He wrote about how the internet was a trap, a gilded cage. He was talking about the early days of. He said something about how they had co-opted it, turned it into a surveillance tool. He lamented the loss of innocence, the good. He said, and I quote again, "We traded. And now, they own it all. Every keystroke, every click, every thought. It's all logged. It's all cataloged. And we let them." He then sent a link to a documentary about the Snowden revelations. I'd seen that. It was something. And then, the absolute last message. The one that made my stomach clench. It was just a link. A link to a news article. About a data breach. A massive one. It happened years ago. I'd forgotten about it. And it was from some defunct social media site I'd used in college. I'd signed up with my .edu email, which I still sometimes use for. Well, for things like that forum. The breach had compromised millions of accounts. usernames, passwords, email addresses. All exposed. It was a huge scandal at the time. I'd probably seen the headlines, but I'd moved on. Life happens. And you. Forget. I looked at the timestamp on that last message. 4:58 a.m. He'd sent it right after that rambling about the data breach. Was he trying to tell me something? Was he trying to warn me? Or was he just losing it? I put my phone down. The screen glowed, a sickly blue in the dim room. The silence in my apartment felt heavier now. Not just the absence of noise, but a presence of silence. It was the kind of silence that makes. I could hear the neighbor's dog barking again. That yappy little terrier. Always at the wrong times. I walked over to the window and looked out. The sky was starting to lighten, a dull gray. The streetlights still hummed, casting pools of weak. There was a trash truck rumbling by on the next block. The grinding sound of its machinery seemed unnaturally loud. My sister's supposed to be here soon. She'll probably be furious. She'll say, "I told you so." She'll want to see the messages. She'll want to dissect every word. And I'll have to tell her. I'll have to show her the digital void. I went back to the kitchen. The cereal bowl was still there, the milk fully congealed now. It looked like something you'd find in a science experiment. I scraped it into the trash. The clinking of the spoon against the ceramic was sharp. I rinsed the bowl, the water running with a low gurgle. My sister. She's always been the more practical one. The one who sees things for what they are. Or what she thinks they are. She's convinced I've fallen under some kind of spell. That Pixel Prophet is some kind of digital Svengali. And maybe, just maybe, she's right. Maybe I have been blinded by the convenience, by the seemingly endless well of information. Maybe I've been so focused on fixing the old world, I haven't noticed the new one taking shape around me. I remembered the landlord incident. It had been so straightforward. I had a problem, I posted, I got help. It felt good. Empowering, even. But now, looking back, it feels different. Like I'd been nudged, subtly, towards a specific action. And who was doing the nudging? I picked up my phone again. Pixel Prophet's chat was still open. I scrolled up, past the frantic messages, past the cryptic warnings. I went back to the first message he'd ever sent me. It was a reply to my landlord complaint. It was just a link to that tenant handbook. No preamble, no pleasantries. Just the link. And a single question mark. What was he after? What did he want? Or was he just a lonely guy? An expert in vintage tech and obscure information, reaching out in the only way he knew how. I thought about the Commodore 64. The memory pointers. The digital void. It sounded dramatic, sure. But it also sounded accurate. The digital world is vast and complex. And sometimes, you need someone who knows how to navigate it. Someone who can dance with the pointers. I looked at my sister's contact photo. It's a goofy selfie from years ago, her tongue sticking out. She's always been like that. A bit much. But she's family. And she's worried. I need to be ready for her. Ready for the barrage of questions, the pronouncements of doom. I decided to make some coffee. The grinder whirred, a familiar, comforting sound. And the smell of roasted beans filled the air. As the hot water dripped through the grounds, I thought about the data breach again. Millions of compromised accounts. My old college email. The forum. Pixel Prophet. Was he a victim, too? Was he trying to warn people? Or was he part of it? Had he been the one to find that data, to hoard it, to use it to what? Help people? Manipulate them? I poured myself a mug of coffee. It was there, bitter. Just how I liked it. I took a sip, the warmth spreading through me. I needed to stay calm. To think. My sister would be here any minute. I opened my laptop. The screen flickered on, displaying my desktop. A picture of my old dog, Buster. He'd been gone for years, but I still kept it. He was a good dog. Simple. Didn't have to worry about privacy with him. Just wanted belly rubs and walks. I opened a new tab and typed in. I couldn't recall the acronym, but the full name might jog my memory. The search results loaded. Lots of official-looking websites. Lots of legalese. And I needed to call my sister. Tell her I was okay. Tell her I was thinking. But I didn't want to talk to her yet. Not until I had some kind of handle on this. Some kind of explanation. I took another sip of coffee. The silence in the apartment was broken only. And it was a normal morning. Except it wasn't. Not anymore. I remembered a conversation I'd had with Pixel Prophet once, back when I was first getting into old computers. I'd asked him how he knew so much. He'd just sent me a link to a TED talk about the exponential growth of information. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that knowledge was like a fractal. Each piece contained smaller versions of itself, and the more you looked, the more you saw. And it was fascinating, but also a little overwhelming. And that's how I felt right now. Overwhelmed. Lost in the fractal. I heard a car pull up outside. It sounded like my sister's beat-up Civic. Here she comes. Time to face the music. Or at least, the screenshots. The doorbell rang, a shrill, insistent sound. I took a deep breath and walked to the door. My sister stood on the landing, her arms crossed, her expression a mixture of concern and accusation. She was, a sensible blouse and slacks. "You're alive," she said, her voice flat. "I'm alive," I confirmed. She pushed past me into the apartment, her. "And so, what happened? You're not answering your phone." "I've been worried sick." "I was asleep," I said. "Asleep? At 2 a.m.? When you get messages like that?" She gestured. I led her to the kitchen table, the scene of our earlier breakfast interrogation. The cereal bowl was gone, but the sickly laminate remained. I sat down. She sat opposite me, her gaze fixed on my face. "He messaged me again," I said. "After they know." Her eyebrows shot up. "Oh, really? What did he say this time? More cryptic pronouncements about the digital abyss?" "No," I said. "It was different. He sent a lot of messages. All at once. Between 2 and 5 a.m. And," she prompted, leaning forward. I opened my phone and showed her the chat log. She scrolled through it, her lips pressed into a thin line. The rambling, paranoid outpouring. The talk of surveillance, of algorithms, of being watched. She pointed to a sentence. "See? They use the ambient noise to mask their presence." "What is that, Joshua? That's not normal." He was scared, I said. "Scared? Or trying to make you scared?" She scrolled further. And then this. "We traded our privacy for convenience, our autonomy." It's like he's quoting some dystopian novel. He's worried? Or is he planting seeds of doubt? Making you question everything? She stopped scrolling. And then he just stops. "Mid-sentence, you said?" "Yeah." Like he was cut off. "Cut off," she repeated, the words hanging in the air. "How convenient." I didn't respond. I just watched her. She was trying to connect the dots, to build a narrative. And I was the unwilling protagonist in her story. "And the last thing?" she asked, her voice low. I showed her the link to the news article. She clicked it. The headline appeared on my phone screen. "The data breach. Years ago." And she read the article, her expression unreadable. Then she looked up at me. "So," she said, He sends you this link, right after he's. It looks like he's trying to tell you something, she said. Something he's been hoarding. Something he's ready to share. Or maybe he's trying to make a point about your own digital footprint. But why would he do that? I asked. She shrugged. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Maybe he thinks you're in danger. Maybe he's trying to recruit you. Maybe he's just a crazy person who stumbled. You know, I've been thinking about this. About how he always knows what you need. How he finds things for you. It's not just computers, is it? It's everything. That landlord thing. That vinyl record. It's like he has access to everything. Or he is the information, she countered. Or he's a conduit. A gateway. I just stared at her. And she was definitely leaning into the cult leader theory. I don't think he's a cult leader, I said. Then what is he, Joshua? What's a person who can do all this? Who knows all this, who sends messages like that in the middle of the night? She tapped her fingers on the table. I'm telling you, this is not normal. This is not healthy. You need to block him. Delete him. And forget about him. I can't just delete him, I said. What if he really is in trouble? What if they know meant something real? And you're so easily swayed, Joshua. You always have been. You get caught up in things. You see what you want to see. That stung. It wasn't entirely untrue. And I had gotten caught up in the vintage tech scene. I had been fascinated by Pixel Prophet's abilities. I just want to understand, I said. And you'll understand a lot more when you're. Seriously, Joshua. This is not a game. This is your life. And you're letting some unknown entity dictate it. She stood up. I'm going to make some tea. You should probably think about what I've said. The sound of the running water seemed to fill the silence that had fallen between us. I watched her. She was right to be worried. I knew that. But I also knew that Pixel Prophet, for all his strangeness, had helped me. He'd helped me with my apartment. He'd helped me find that record. And maybe, just maybe, he was trying to help me again, in his own bizarre way. The kettle whistled, a piercing shriek. She poured the hot water into a mug, the steam rising in delicate tendrils. She brought it back to the table and sat down. Look, she said, her voice softer now. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm worried about you. This whole thing. It feels wrong. It feels dangerous. I know, I said. But I can't just ignore it. What if he's telling the truth? And what if he's not, she countered. What if he's leading you down a rabbit hole of his own making? You need to be careful, Joshua. You need to be smart. She took a sip of her tea. Did you try to message him again after those messages stopped? No, I said. I figured. It was over. Or he's waiting. Waiting for you to make the next move. I looked down at my phone. The chat log was still open. Pixel Prophet's last message, the link to the data breach, was still there, a stark reminder of the night's events. I thought about the old VCR manual. The one I never found. Just a pile of forum links. Maybe that's what this was. A whole lot of links, leading nowhere. I'm going to go, my sister said, standing up again. But call me. Okay? If anything else happens. Anything at all. I will, I promised. She hesitated at the door, then turned back. And seriously, Joshua. Block him. For your own good. She gave me a pointed look, then left. The door clicked shut behind her. I was alone again. The apartment felt there, but not peaceful. The silence was charged, expectant. I looked at my phone. Pixel Prophet's chat. Should I block him? Should I delete him? I thought about his messages. The paranoia. The fear. The cryptic warnings. And the data breach. Was he trying to tell me that I was compromised? That my old email, my digital footprint, was out there for anyone to see? I opened a new tab and typed in. This time, I scrolled down further. I found a page about their data collection policies. It was dense. But the gist was clear. They collected a lot of data. From a lot of sources. My heart gave that weird little flutter again. Like a trapped bird. I looked back at Pixel_Profit's messages. They know. Who were they? The government agency? Or someone else? I needed to call the dentist. I scrolled up to the top of the chat. I hovered my finger over the block option. But I didn't press it. Not yet. I wasn't ready. Not until I knew what I was walking away from. Or walking into. I closed the chat window. I opened a new tab and typed in. A flood of information. Websites. Tools. Forums. It was like falling down another rabbit hole. A much larger, much more terrifying rabbit hole. I took a deep breath. My sister was right. I was easily swayed. I got caught up. But maybe, just maybe, this time, getting caught up was the only way to figure things out. I started clicking on the links. The hum of the refrigerator seemed to get louder. The faint smell of old coffee grounds and dust filled the air. The streetlights outside cast long shadows across my floor. And I kept reading. And reading. And reading. Sometimes people surprise you.